Greetings, y'all. Now, just like I told some of my subscribers in a previous video, polygamy is a slippery slope, right? Those who are involved in a polygamous relationship must always consider the fact that the expectations that you have coming from a monogamous relationship, you will not be able to experience this in a polygamous arrangement. Now, looking at carbonation, I see that carbonation, whether intentionally or accidentally, carbonation actually became what is like a social experiment, and it's telling us a lot about ourselves. Many of the things people speculate about that they would suggest would need to be implemented. We are getting to see just how succinct the reasoning is behind polygamy. And it's not turning out to be very succinct. Okay. In a polygamous relationship and carbonation, there also appears to be a very loose framework for the relationship. So it seems like at any moment, based on the feelings that a person has at a particular time, they are perfectly willing to exchange wives, exchange husbands in carbonation, right? So I always thought that when they call themselves wives, that they were actually wives in a committed relationship that should not be disturbed. But it's almost like they are attempting to be like this new age society. They are attempting to be a new age society in which people can, out of whim, they can make a choice and join another partner, right? Join a family, join a relationship at will, depending on their feelings, right? And so, notwithstanding this fact, yesterday on a live stream, Nature Boy encountered a beast of his own design. He encountered an issue that he basically precipitated with the loose framework of these relationships, right? Because if you're basically showing the community and the world that you view relationships in a frivolous sense, so what you are basically doing, you are implanting this idea in the minds of your wives as well. And so when they look at the situation and see that there's chaos and that it's also possible for them to jump ship, they will jump ship, right? And so Nature Boy discovered that Eliana and Tron were involved in some type of flirtatious exchange. They were flirting with each other, and what happened? Nature Boy peep game, and he was like, "What What's going on? What do y'all want to be with each other?" These are his words. And so what he did was he had what he called a real nigga moment, right? And I'll give a few judgments about the real nigga moment later on. But in the real nigga moment, dated yesterday, the 25th, what he did was he tried to put Eliana on blast, as he does with all of his followers. What he does is, he will speak about it on live and ask them to speak openly about whatever the situation is, no matter how uncomfortable it is. So, what I would say about Eliana, I think she actually responded to this situation in the wrong way. Because, first of all, if you're still inside this place and you're still a part of the community, it must mean that anything happening in the community, you would have co signed it or you would be willing to accept it, right? So, if you watch countless people put on blast in the real nigga moment, countless people have been put on blast on a live stream by Nature Boy in the same way, asking probing questions, asking direct questions. So if he asks Eliana a question, she should have already had this in mind that this is the usual practice. Okay? But like the saying goes, pressure will burst a pipe. So what is happening is the accumulation of stress, the accumulation of misunderstanding resulted in her having a breakdown once again, in which she actually went and cut her dreadlocks off her hair. At least this is my impression. Some people are saying that Nature Boy cut her dreadlocks in the aim of making her less attractive to the other people in carbonation, you know. And basically, what he did was, after this incident, when she collected herself, when he reprogrammed her, he broke up with her. You know, he asked her to speak about her feelings and then basically said that from this day forth, she is no longer the chiefess. She is no longer um, his direct. Now, the word direct is used in their community meaning like a relationship, a committed relationship. So, people, I just wanted to touch on this because what we are seeing, you know, and also prior to this exchange, one of Nature Boy's wives also left Nature Boy for one of his followers named Solar because he would have witnessed some flirting taking place. They flirted in the studio, and so what he did was he basically told her, "Look, if you feel in this person, you go be with him, right? Ice cold." You know, I honestly, let me get to my commentary before this video gets too long. But what I would say, as I said in the beginning of this video, this is like a social experiment that is very revealing about black people because many of us would have noticed this pathology in the city. The only difference is it's happening in um, a rural environment. It's happening in nature, but this is like uh, black relationship pathology. You know, except that it's taking place in a polygamous arrangement where people can basically choose any um, counterpart that they would want to choose at will. So I don't know, you know, there's a part of me that wants to say that there's some redeeming value in the way that he handles the situations. But there's also a part of me that recognizes that behind the camera, there must be some type of atmosphere of tension. You know, sometimes I know I know how it feels when you are a thinking person. When you're a thinking person and then you are immersed in chaos around people who can't necessarily communicate to you the way that you um, understand things, the way that you communicate things. They can't relate to you. And oftentimes, when you feel like you are in a defeatist position, sometimes it becomes like a position of despair. When a person is in despair, their consciousness is completely haywire, you know, and at that point, they can have a mental breakdown. Okay, we've all been on the precipice, but what we saw happen yesterday was a full on mental breakdown, screaming fest, shouting fest, with a baby in the middle of it, you know. So, people, it was a distressing predicament. But, you know, not to make the video too long, but what I would say, looking at the situation, right, we really need to be able to get the formula right for a community like carbonation because if we get the formula right, we would be able to be a self-sustaining entity free from the system, or at least a bit more free from the system, a little less dependent on the system, you know. But we need to be able to work out our family arrangements, our um, codes. We need to codify our interaction with each other so that we can have a best practice. We need best practices in the black community. We need elders councils to mediate. Okay, we need framework for our community. And what I'm saying, looking at carbonation, it is a model for a community if it was not controlled by one entity and if there was a little bit more room for free discussion. Um, you know, and I think that's mainly what's taking place. But aside from all of that, you know, the chaos has no place. You know, that can't remain there if they think they will be continuous. Okay, and there needs to be some type of standard. Okay, it can't just be that a person is my wife today and then next week she's another person's wife, and then the following week she's another person's wife. Okay, and then the following week you put her on the bench and say that she's nobody's wife until you are ready again. So it's crazy. People, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below about this update. Eliana cut her hair off. Nature Boy demoted two of his wives. Um, Let me know your thoughts. One love.